Every time you explain yourself, you give someone the map to control you. Real power begins when you stop being understood. It starts with something small, your need to be understood. You talk a little too much, you share a little too soon, you explain yourself a little too deeply. You do it because you want to connect, because you think being open makes people like you more. You believe that if they know who you really are, they'll trust you, respect you, maybe even admire you. But in the world of human behavior, the opposite happens. The more you reveal, the less power you hold. The moment people can read you like a book, they close the cover and move on. Curiosity dies the second you give them everything. Mystery is not about being secretive for the sake of it. It's about understanding how attention works. People are drawn to what they don't fully understand. The unknown pulls at the human mind like gravity. When someone can't figure you out, they keep thinking about you. They replay your words. They try to interpret your silence. They build stories in their heads to fill the gaps. But when you expose every thought, when you share every story, there are no gaps left to fill. You leave them nothing to wonder about and nothing to chase. What once could have been fascination becomes familiarity, and familiarity always kills respect. Look at how people treat what they can't easily get. They chase it, they value it, they guard it once they have it. But when something is too available, they stop appreciating it. It's the same with your personality. When you make your emotions, your plans, and your opinions too easy to access, you make yourself ordinary. You become a person who can be predicted, and predictability is the death of power. People stop watching your moves because they already know your next one. They stop asking questions because you've already answered all of them. The most respected people in any room are not the ones who talk the most, but the ones who hold back. The ones whose silence makes others lean in. When you stop explaining, people start wondering. They assume you know more than you say. They imagine depth where there may only be discipline. They confuse calmness with wisdom, and that confusion works in your favor. Power lives in the pause, in the details you don't explain, in the emotions you don't show. You think being open shows strength, but it often reveals insecurity. It shows that you need others to see you a certain way. Real strength is quiet. It doesn't try to prove itself. It doesn't need validation. When you can sit with your truth without broadcasting it, you become unshakable. The people around you start to feel that stillness, and they treat you differently. They don't interrupt you as much. They don't challenge you as often. They measure their words around you. Because mystery isn't about being distant. It's about control. You control what you show, what you hide, and what you let people think. And when you learn to do that, you'll notice something powerful. Respect doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being unreadable. Revealing too much doesn't make people feel closer. It makes them feel superior. You may think that being open helps others understand you, that it creates connection and trust, but in reality, it gives them a map of your weaknesses. Every detail you share becomes a piece of data about your emotions, your limits, and your desires. The more they know, the easier it becomes to predict your moves. Once people can predict you, they can influence you. They know what compliments will melt you, what criticisms will shake you, and what topics will silence you. You have given them the playbook to your mind without realizing it. People often confuse honesty with exposure. Honesty is strength. Exposure is surrender. Honesty means you choose what to reveal with purpose. Exposure means you speak from impulse, driven by the need to be seen or understood. The moment you start explaining every thought or feeling, you start giving away your internal leverage. You stop being a mystery and become an open file that anyone can read, analyze, and manipulate. What makes people powerful is not that they know everything, but that others can never be sure what they're thinking. That uncertainty creates respect. It makes people cautious around you because they can't predict how you'll respond. When you overshare, people lose that caution. They start treating you like an equal or worse, as someone below them. They feel like they've figured you out, and once they feel that, they stop valuing you the same way. It's human nature to admire what we can't fully access. The moment someone feels they've seen all your layers, you stop being magnetic. You become common. The rarest thing in this world is someone who holds themselves back, who doesn't need to explain, who keeps parts of themselves beyond reach. That person commands quiet respect without saying a word. There's another danger in exposure. Every time you reveal your insecurities or fears to the wrong person, you hand them emotional ammunition. Even if they seem kind, even if they nod with empathy, those details stay in their mind. And one day, during conflict or competition, they'll use it. Not always directly, but subtly, in tone or silence or small remarks designed to unsettle you. That's how the world works. People collect your confessions not because they care, but because knowledge gives them an edge. The strongest people are not emotionless. They are selective. They know when to open up and when to stay silent. They understand that mystery doesn't mean dishonesty, it means control. Control over who earns access to your inner world and who doesn't. You don't need to hide everything, but you must never reveal what others can use to shrink you, because once they know your wounds, they stop respecting your armor. The power of influence belongs to those who speak less and think more. The moment you stop oversharing, you reclaim that power. People will start wondering again, guessing again, respecting again, because the less they know, the more they believe there is to know. And that belief keeps you in control. Mystery pulls attention the way silence pulls noise. It creates gravity. People are drawn to what they cannot fully read, to what keeps them guessing, to what stays slightly out of reach. When someone cannot predict you, they begin to observe you more carefully. They replay what you said. They analyze how you move. They search for meaning in your pauses. And in that quiet obsession, respect is born, because people don't admire what they fully understand. They admire what they can't quite figure out. The unknown makes them cautious, and caution always feels like respect. Mystery doesn't mean you vanish or stay distant. It means you learn to reveal yourself with precision. You show enough to make people feel intrigued, but never enough to make them feel comfortable. You let them sense confidence without fully grasping its source. You let them see calmness without explaining the struggle that built it. When you speak, your words carry weight because they are few. When you act, your moves seem intentional because they are rare. Every detail of you feels deliberate, and that gives you power. In a world where everyone overshares, restraint is magnetic. The mysterious person holds control not because they are louder, but because they are unreadable. Predictability is the language of weakness. If people can predict your reaction, they can provoke it. But when they can't, they become careful. They start respecting boundaries that you never even had to state. They filter their words, they adjust their tone, they compete for your approval without realizing it. Your mystery makes them perform around you, and that's how influence works. You lead without trying simply because no one can fully calculate you. This doesn't mean pretending to be cold or distant. It means knowing that not every emotion deserves an audience. You can feel deeply and still choose silence. You can know your truth and still refuse to announce it. When you master that balance, you stop chasing validation. You stop explaining who you are and start allowing others to define it for you. And what they imagine will always be larger than the reality. The mind fills blank spaces with exaggeration, and that exaggeration becomes your power. They see more strength, more depth, more control than you even possess, and you gain respect without saying a word. Mystery also protects you. When people don't know your motives, they can't anticipate your next move. They can't use your patterns against you. You stop being someone who reacts and start being someone who dictates the rhythm. That's what psychological gravity is. It's not force, it's pull. You draw attention without effort. You attract curiosity without asking. You control rooms without raising your voice. In every interaction, remember this truth. What people don't know about you gives you more power than what they do. Leave space for questions. Let your silence speak. Let your unpredictability create tension. Because mystery is not about hiding who you are. It's about showing that not everyone deserves to know. And when you live that way, you stop chasing attention and start commanding it. Strategic revelation is not lying. It is editing. It is the art of control disguised as openness. You don't hide everything, you simply choose what to show. You let people see fragments of your world, just enough to make them curious, just enough to make them feel like they are getting closer, but never enough for them to truly reach the center. This is what powerful people do without even trying. They let others believe they are discovering truth, when in reality they are being guided through a performance. Every story shared, every emotion shown, every secret hinted at, is part of a quiet choreography. The audience feels privileged to be included, not realizing they are only seeing what was meant for them to see. The mistake most people make is believing that honesty means total transparency. They pour everything out thinking it builds trust, but full exposure kills tension, and tension is what keeps attention alive. The people who hold lasting influence understand that humans crave the thrill of uncertainty. When you leave blanks, people fill them in with their imagination, and that imagined version of you is always grander than the real one. They give you more credit, more depth, more strength, simply because they don't have the whole picture. The illusion of depth is often more powerful than depth itself. You don't have to be distant to create mystery. You just have to be deliberate. You can share parts of your story, but frame them with precision. Reveal your struggles, but not your breakdowns. Speak about your wins, but not your full plan. Let them know you've been hurt, but never who hurt you. When you give away too many specifics, you remove the power of ambiguity. And ambiguity is what makes people lean in. They listen closer because they sense meaning between the lines. They replay your words because they think there's something hidden underneath. In personal relationships, partial revelation builds attraction. In leadership, it builds respect. When people feel like there's always more to you, they stay interested. They keep watching, analyzing, asking questions. They never get bored because they never reach the end. That's what keeps great figures, both in history and in modern life, magnetic. They don't shout their truth, they whisper it. They let curiosity do the heavy lifting. The key is to understand that mystery doesn't live in silence alone. Silence without energy feels cold. Mystery lives in contrast, in what's said and what's left unsaid. You can be expressive but still unpredictable. You can tell stories, but always leave one thread untied. You can open the door, but never let them see every room. This balance creates psychological tension, and tension creates power. When you reveal strategically, people mistake your control for authenticity. They feel like they've earned your trust, when really, you've only given them what strengthens your image. The truth is, full disclosure is for those who seek comfort. Partial revelation is for those who seek influence. It makes people respect you, chase you, and imagine you long after you've stopped speaking. Because mystery, handled with precision, doesn't distance you, it makes you unforgettable. When people can predict your reactions, they stop paying attention to you. The moment they know how you'll respond, what you'll say or how you'll feel, you lose the element of presence. You blend into the background of their expectations. Familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort breeds contempt. It sounds harmless, but when people become too comfortable with you, they stop respecting you. They stop seeing you as someone with depth or power. They start assuming you'll always act the same, always forgive, always explain, always react. That predictability becomes a trap because it gives others control over you. They can anticipate your next move, and once they can shape the outcome in their favor. The mysterious individual understands this. They know that control doesn't come from being loud or dramatic. It comes from being unreadable. Not in a confusing way, but in a way that keeps others alert. You remain calm when they expect anger. You stay silent when they expect defense. You move slowly when they expect you to rush. That small unpredictability builds tension. It keeps people slightly unsure, slightly cautious, slightly respectful. They start to measure their words around you, not because you threatened them, but because they can't quite calculate you. You've created psychological distance, and that distance becomes power. Predictability is the opposite of presence. Presence requires attention, and attention only exists where there is uncertainty. Think about it. The moment you already know what a movie scene will do, your mind drifts. The same happens with people. If your reactions follow a pattern, others stop watching you closely. But when you stay composed, subtle, unpredictable, they can't take their eyes off you. They watch for cues. They listen for meaning. They try to guess what's coming next. You become a quiet source of tension in every room, and tension is the root of influence. This doesn't mean you need to act mysterious for the sake of it. It means you stop giving your emotions away so easily. You learn to pause before reacting, to make people wait, to make them question. The pause is your weapon. It shifts power instantly. When someone insults you and you don't react, the silence becomes heavy. They start doubting themselves. They wonder if they went too far. They feel small not because you attacked them, but because you didn't take the bait. That calm unpredictability makes people careful with you, and care creates respect. Your routines and habits also tell people how to treat you. When they can always find you doing the same things, at the same times, in the same ways, you stop being impressive. Change your rhythm once in a while. Move differently. Speak differently. Surprise the world without warning. The key is to stay grounded, but never completely known. Predictability makes you replaceable, but unpredictability makes you unforgettable. When people can't read you, they respect you. When they can't anticipate you, they admire you. And when they can't control you, they fear losing your attention. That is how presence is built. Not through noise, but through quiet unpredictability. Every time you rush to express your feelings, you hand over leverage. Emotion is power, and power belongs to the one who controls it. The person who reacts first, who shows frustration, anger, or desperation, gives others the map to their mind. Once people know what gets under your skin, they can use it against you. The Machiavellian mind understands this. Emotion is currency, and the one who spends less holds more. The ability to stay composed when everyone else is losing their balance makes you stand out without saying a word. In chaos, stillness looks like strength, silence looks like certainty, and control looks like wisdom. When you learn to master your emotions, you change how the world treats you. People stop testing you because you don't take the bait. They stop pushing you because you never give them a show. You become unreadable, and unreadable people make others cautious. That caution is respect in disguise. It comes not from fear, but from uncertainty. When people can't predict your emotional reaction, they begin to admire your calm even if they don't understand it. They project depth onto your silence. They assume confidence where there may only be restraint. They start believing you are stronger, smarter, and more composed than you might actually be. And that illusion alone gives you real power. Most people think expressing every emotion is honest. They believe it shows passion, care, or vulnerability. But the truth is, uncontrolled emotion makes you predictable. It gives others too much access to your inner world. They start to see your highs and lows like a pattern, and soon they can pull the strings whenever they want. When you're angry, they know how to calm you. When you're insecure, they know how to flatter you. When you're sad, they know how to comfort you just enough to gain your loyalty. You think you're being genuine, but you're being guided. The one who controls their emotions never gets guided. They guide others. Emotional restraint doesn't mean you suppress what you feel. It means you pause before you act. You feel everything, but you let nothing spill uncontrolled. You give your emotions form, not reaction. You choose when to reveal them, how much to show, and to whom. This is emotional discipline, and it's what separates the reactive from the powerful. The reactive person is a puppet pulled by circumstance. The disciplined person is a player moving with purpose. When you stay calm, people assume you know something they don't. They start to question their own judgment. They become uncertain while you remain steady. Even if you say nothing, your silence becomes a mirror that reflects their instability back at them. That's how restraint turns into dominance. Power doesn't always shout. Often it whispers through control. The more you manage your emotions, the more others lose control around you. They reveal themselves while you remain composed. They talk too much, explain too much, confess too much, and you, by staying silent, gain everything. Emotional restraint is not coldness. It's command. It's the quiet force that bends rooms, shapes perception, and makes people trust or fear you without you lifting a finger. The less you reveal, the more people imagine. And the human imagination never stops at the truth, it always exaggerates. When you leave space in people's minds, they fill it with stories. They build versions of you based on fragments, on moments, on silence, and those imagined versions often outshine who you really are. This is the secret of allure, the illusion of depth. You become more fascinating not by doing more, but by saying less. People don't chase what they can have. They chase what they can't fully grasp, and when they can't pin you down, they start chasing your essence, trying to define what you refuse to explain. Mystery is a mirror. It makes others reflect their desires onto you. They don't see you as you are. They see what they wish you to be. Someone calm becomes wise in their eyes. Someone quiet becomes profound. Someone private becomes powerful. Their curiosity builds your reputation without you lifting a finger. The more questions they have, the more value they assign to you. That's the paradox of mystery. You do less, but the world imagines more. You give silence, and they mistake it for strategy. You hold back, and they call it strength. You become a canvas where others project what they most want to believe. This is why mystery is not weakness, it is leverage. It makes people invest their thoughts, their emotions, even their time into trying to understand you. The more they try, the more attached they become. That attachment becomes obsession. They replay conversations. They analyze your tone. They look for hidden meaning where none exists. They start needing answers, and that need gives you control. Because the one who seeks understanding is always at a disadvantage to the one who withholds it. You don't have to demand attention when curiosity works for you. In relationships, this power shows itself clearly. The person who overshares loses intrigue quickly. The one who stays composed, who reveals only parts, who never rushes to explain, becomes addictive. Every word, every glance, every pause holds weight because it's rare. Scarcity creates value, and in a world full of noise, restraint becomes magnetic. People will say they value honesty, but they are drawn to mystery. They are fascinated by what they can't fully reach. Even in leadership, mystery commands respect. When a leader doesn't reveal every thought, every emotion, or every plan, people lean in. They wonder what's next. They prepare for possibilities. The uncertainty keeps them sharp. It keeps their attention. A predictable leader is followed out of routine. A mysterious one is followed out of fascination. To build mystery, you don't need to hide in shadows. You just need to speak with purpose. You let silence carry half the message. You learn the art of saying enough to provoke thought, but never enough to satisfy it. That balance keeps people thinking about you long after you've left the room. Because mystery is not about deception. It's about presence that lingers. When people can't stop thinking about you, when your silence echoes louder than others' words, that's when mystery becomes obsession, and that obsession is power. Society praises authenticity, but most people confuse it with exposure. They think being open means showing everything, telling everything, explaining everything. They post every thought, every feeling, every move, thinking it builds connection. But what it really builds is fatigue. When people see too much of you, they stop seeing you at all. You become background noise, always visible, never valued. True authenticity isn't about exposure. It's about alignment, about acting in truth without broadcasting it. The mysterious person understands this. He doesn't chase relatability. He chases impact. His value doesn't rise from visibility. It rises from scarcity. In the age of endless sharing, mystery has become rebellion. Everyone is performing, competing for attention, showing every detail of their lives to prove they have nothing to hide. But what they don't realize is that overexposure drains power. It leaves nothing to wonder about, nothing to imagine. The more people know, the more they take you for granted. The mysterious person does the opposite. He doesn't feed curiosity, he controls it. He knows that what people can't see, they respect more. What they can't reach, they desire more. Transparency sounds noble, but often it's just a search for validation. When you explain yourself constantly, you're really saying, please understand me, please accept me. But power doesn't ask to be understood. Power moves in silence. The moment you start needing others to see your intentions, you've already surrendered control. You've handed them the right to decide your worth. The one who stays composed, who doesn't feel the need to explain or display, keeps that right for himself. He becomes the one others talk about, the one others guess about, the one others can't stop thinking about. Even in personal relationships, too much transparency kills attraction. When you tell someone everything too soon, you remove the mystery that builds interest. You make yourself familiar, predictable, safe. And safety, though comfortable, rarely inspires desire. The people who leave the deepest marks are not the ones who reveal all their thoughts, but the ones who reveal them slowly, selectively, with purpose. They understand that restraint doesn't distance people, it draws them in. It makes every moment of honesty feel like a privilege, not a routine. Transparency can also make you weak in the eyes of others. The more people know about your fears, your struggles, your insecurities, the easier it becomes for them to use those things against you. You think you're being open, but you're handing them the blueprint to your vulnerabilities. The strong don't hide their humanity, but they protect their inner world. They choose what deserves to be shared and what must stay guarded. That choice is power. When you stop trying to be transparent for everyone, you gain peace. You start valuing privacy, not as secrecy, but as strength. The world doesn't need to know your every move. Let them wonder. Let them imagine. You don't owe anyone access to your thoughts or emotions just to seem real. Realness is not about what you reveal, it's about what you protect. Transparency without purpose is exposure. Transparency with restraint is mastery, and mastery always commands respect. The final stage isn't secrecy, it's presence. It's when you no longer need to hide, but you are never fully known. You walk into a room and people feel something before you speak. They can't explain it, but they sense it, a kind of quiet authority that doesn't need to prove itself. You carry weight without effort. You don't rush to fill silence or seek attention. You let the stillness around you do the talking. This is the aura of enigma. It's not built overnight, it's built through discipline, through every moment you choose restraint over reaction, through every time you allow your calm to speak louder than your words. People respect what they can't explain. They are drawn to mystery because it forces their imagination to work. When they can't figure you out, they start guessing, and their guesses often make you larger in their minds. They create stories about your confidence, your power, your depth, without you saying a thing. That's the beauty of enigma. You don't need to shape the narrative, you let others shape it for you. They project their assumptions onto your silence, and those assumptions often serve you better than any explanation ever could. The aura of enigma is not about distance, it's about control. You decide when to speak, how much to reveal, and when to hold back. You know that your presence carries more influence than your words ever will. When you stop trying to convince people, you give them space to be curious. That curiosity becomes fascination. They watch your eyes, your posture, your stillness. They start analyzing what you don't say more than what you do. And slowly, without trying, you become someone who commands attention by existing, not performing. True power isn't loud, it's composed. The one who can sit in silence while others scramble to speak holds the real advantage. The one who doesn't flinch when provoked, who doesn't explain when accused, who doesn't rush to be understood, creates an unshakable image. That image turns into reputation, and reputation turns into aura. People start speaking your name differently, slower, with more caution, because they feel that invisible weight you carry. You don't have to demand respect. You simply exist in a way that makes disrespect feel dangerous. This kind of presence doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from peace. You've learned that power is not in proving your worth, but in knowing it. You've learned that mystery is not about being distant, but about being deliberate. You reveal what serves your purpose and protect what feeds your strength. Every choice, every pause, every silence adds to the myth people build around you. Your silence becomes story, your restraint becomes legend. You stop being just a person and start becoming an experience. When people leave your presence, they remember how they felt around you more than what you said. That's the essence of the aura of enigma. It's not about hiding in shadows, it's about shining with control. When you master restraint, you don't need attention, because attention finds you, and when it does, it stays. Maybe this video helped you see yourself or someone you know in a different way. Feel free to let us know via a like or in the comments. And if you want more wisdom and guidance in becoming a better version of yourself, subscribe now. This is the moment to start becoming the person you really want to be.